Alrighty, so in this training session, I want to show you the real life lessons and strategies and tips on how you can go from a CSO, a customer service officer, and transform yourself into an associate, an advice associate. It's aimed towards people working in the financial planning, financial services industry. So if that's you, you're in the perfect spot. If it's not, you're still going to get some value, but I'm going to be making a lot of references towards things that are appropriate for people working in financial planning and financial services. So just keep that in mind and customize it along the way that would suit you. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing you want to be thinking about is I want you to start to consider, how do I put myself in the way of success? Everything you're doing right now, everything you've done is great, but obviously you're watching this video for a reason. You want to get promoted faster. You want to be in the conversations behind closed doors when your bosses or boss are asking other levels of management and other people inside the organization, who's next? Who should we be promoting next? Who is our next associate? You want your name to be coming up first inside that conversation. And the brutal truth is probably right now, that's not you. So what you want to be thinking about, and what this whole presentation is designed to do, is to help you rethink how you view yourself, rethink the behaviors that you need to implement, rethink some of the processes and the systems that you're utilizing so you can add more value into the world, into your career, so you can become the undeniable choice. You're no longer overlooked. And when that conversation comes up, your name comes first. So inside of financial planning, there are 3 layers. The first layer is service. So that's probably the position that you're in right now. And you are the first line of contact, or the first person that the client sees an email or hears their voice on the phone when they put in a service request. Here's what I'd like to do. Here's the question I have. Can you help me with this? You're the first person, and then it's your job to distribute out the work or decide, okay, how do I get that answer, or who do I need to go to assist this customer in helping with their problem. The second stage, the second layer, is strategy, and this is where the associate comes in. So I'm not sure how it works inside your business, whether the associate is a second chair to an advisor, whether they do their own work, whether they're part associate, part paraplanner. Some businesses sort of don't really have a clearly defined way about that. Sometimes they merge, sometimes they're completely separate, and that might be different for everyone, but basically the associate is in charge of strategies. That's all about helping the wealth jigsaw puzzle all fit together inside of a comprehensive plan. And so their role is knowing how each individual thing affects each of the others to make sure it all fits together in that comprehensive plan. The third stage, the third layer, the highest layer, which is the sales element, is the advisor. So you can see here you've got CSO, which is all about service. The next layer up is strategy, which is the associate. And the final stage is advisor, which is the sales. So what was a really big wake-up call for me when I sort of realized this was that financial advisory is there's a large element of sales. And I know this goes against, and you may not have heard this or maybe hearing this for the first time, and it's a big wake-up call like it was for me, but I find it's a really helpful home truth. I'm delivering a lot of home truths in the first part of this presentation because your job is to influence and persuade and help people see the advantages, sales, of having a financial plan, sticking to a financial plan, making sure they've got appropriate protection plans in place. You are helping this person build wealth. Now, the biggest thing that stops people from taking action is inaction. So the continuance of doing what they're currently doing, comfort that they're currently experiencing, because making changes is hard. Making changes involves risk. And so the real job of the financial advisor, they're sitting in front of meetings, they're communicating with clients, if they're building relationships, is a large part of their job is assisting in the behavioral shift. Yeah, the initial behavioral shift is they have to buy something. The business is not going to operate unless sales are being made. And so at the advisor level, the job is to make sales, to ensure that down the line, the associate can put together these strategic financial plans and be paid for it, to ultimately then have the customer service representative and customer service officer who can service the requests and help people implement the plans that they're going to get done, or implement new pieces of advice that need to all come together to help assist that person inside building their entire financial wealth. So you can see how these sort of 3 layers all work together to support the customer inside of their goals. So it's a really a nicely packaged way to start to view the 3 pieces, the 3 elements of a financial services, a financial planning team and idea, which let me stem this back to you and your role. And what you're doing right now is what you're really paid for. So what you're really paid for at the end of the day is to solve problems. Your job is to make your boss's life easier. And so this opens the door, and so you can start to ask yourself some really important questions here. Is what I'm doing, is the behavior that I'm currently exhibiting, am I doing this for me? Am I trying to get more, or am I trying to give more? And you'll probably hear a lot of things, and maybe you've read a few different quotes on Instagram or wherever it is in your life that you get, see things, is you probably say, to get what you want, first give other people what they want. And it's all about giving, giving, giving. And then eventually you'll get what you want. And I don't subscribe to that at all. I subscribe to a fair exchange system. So you want to know what you want and you want to get what you want, but then you've also got to mix that up with giving to help other people get what they want. There's not one or the other, it's a combination of both. And so you want to find the perfect system where you get paid to do what you love to do, and the business receives value in return for that. And so you've got to ask yourself inside this questioning period, this reflection. It's a good time to do it, by the way. What am I really paid for here? And that is to solve problems. And so ask yourself, am I currently solving problems for other people, or am I just expecting that my problems will get solved? I'm not really taking stress away. I'm not really helping my current team, which stems into the two most important elements, the only two things that your boss actually cares about right now and in for eternity. And those two things are increased efficiencies and reduced risk. Increased efficiencies and reducing risk. That is the only, I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to probably go repeat and go on about this, and we'll probably reference this throughout the presentation a few times. But think about it. The two most important things inside of any business ultimately is making a profit, because then you can have an ongoing financial concern, ongoing financial business. And what that means is you need to be really efficient in what you're doing. So if at any point you can increase the efficiency, that is going to pump you up in the eyes of the business. That is going to help your bosses really their eyes poke out and think, this guy or gal really is switched on. On the opposite side is the business at all points in time, especially in financial services, is exposed to risk. And so what your job is, at any point in time, you've got an idea, you'll start thinking, okay, well, look, I'm Hayden, I'm watching this video, I really want to improve, I want to get better. What do I need to do? Well, I can't give you the answers. Hopefully this presentation will give you a few ideas, but you need to think, actually use your mind, pick up your journal in the morning, spend 15, 20 minutes every day for the next 5, 10, 15, 30 days, and ask yourself, what can I do today to increase the efficiency of the business, or how do I reduce the risks? Compliance risk, people risk, systems risk, behavioral risk. There's a whole bunch, and you can do your own research on what kind of risks exist. That's just 4 examples. Or how do I increase efficiencies? How do I change the systems, the processes? How do I implement something? How do I help save people time? How do I save time on my own end? And then also build a system so I can save time across the entire business. What we're doing here is we're rethinking how the business should operate. And look, you're probably thinking right now, like, it's not my business. Well, don't do this then. Like, click off this video. But this is for people who want new ideas, new inspiration, new ways to be able to stand out and, again, put themselves in the way of success. And so what we need to start doing is start thinking like the business owner. You want to get promoted. The way you get promoted is, what you're really paid for, is to take away concerns and take away worries of your bosses and help them have pleasures. So you're taking away worries and giving them pleasures. And what that means is you need to be thinking increased efficiency, reduce risk. Increase efficiency, reduce risk. So again, laboring on the point, but that's what you need to start thinking about. Now, in order to do all that, you need to know where you're at right now. And I'm not sure what kind of business is operating where you're working right now, but the number one thing that you absolutely cannot walk away with at the end of this year, or at the start of this quarter, whatever it is, like, you cannot improve if you don't know where you are right now. You need objective, real, fuck your feelings, home truths. Like, just tell me, where am I at right now? Why am I not progressing? Or what do I need to do to take to that next level? Like, where am I at right now? And now, the thing about this is, you don't just want to go into, just say you've got a one-on-one with your boss or your direct manager, and you want to find out some objective data. You want to find out where you're at. The thing about it is, if you just go in, hey, where are some gaps that currently exist within me, is that's going to prompt. That's gonna, really you're putting the onus, you're putting the thinking onus onto your boss, your manager. Now, depending on how many people work for him or her, if they've got, let's just say, 30 employees, maybe they've got the awareness of what you're up to and different. If they understand human behavior and character traits, and they have enough awareness of what you do day to day, and they have enough awareness on your goals, where you'd like to go, where you've been. Like already, you can tell that's quite a lot to hold inside the mind. On top of servicing clients, making sure clients are doing, making sure that they can pay their bills, making sure the insurances are all in place, making sure that clients are happy. Like they have, that's just 6 problems already that are stacked up. They don't have the time or the energy, the effort to be your personal career guide, your personal career mentor throughout the entire period. So you have to go in with ammunition. You need to go in with ideas about where things are currently at right now within yourself and where you would like them to be. But really, let's give some prompts to be able to show that you've done some self-reflection, to show that you've done some thinking in advance, rather than just relying on them to think for you. You go in and go, okay, well, here's the 5 traits that I've recognized seem to make up all successful associates. And here's currently where I think I'm at, with each of those. Where do you think that I'm at? I've done a little bit of research. Here's where I rate myself out of 5 across these different spectrums. And you can reach out to me if you want a list of what those successful traits are, or just have a look around and you can see. But what you want to be thinking is, okay, where am I at objectively? Now, because you are who you are, and because everyone has their own subjective lens, it's very hard to be objective sometimes. The additional data of having other people assist you is going to help in painting a realistic picture of where you're at. And in particular, I heard a quote once: is perception is a reality. Whether or not it's true, your boss's perception of you right now is exactly where you're at. And if your boss has a negative perception of you, or they don't see you as a hard worker, or they don't see an opportunity that would be the right fit for you, or they see you as immature, they see you as impulsive, they see you as insert X character trait, well, that's your reality. And so, or they see you as slow, they see you as behind, whatever it is, their perception, it doesn't matter what you want or what you believe. If that is their perception, we have to do some work to be able to assist in shifting that, which is what the second part of this presentation is going to be about. We'll get into it in a second. But what you need right now is you need to know where you stand. You need to know exactly, objectively, where you stand right now, which comes in 2 parts. Is, okay, well, this is where I am right now. And okay, that's understandable. I get it. And here's the thing: throw your feelings out. You cannot, in this stage, and I'm projecting a little bit here, but it's to bring across a point. At this stage, you cannot accept your feelings inside this conversation. You need to park the ego, you need to park your emotions, you need to park any sort of feelings of this person is attacking me, blah, blah, blah. Park the feelings just for a second. Put your feelings on hold for a second and just listen. Listen and ask, is this true? Ask yourself, is what they're saying true? We can deal with those later. There's different techniques to be able to deal with the emotions and to accept. But the reality is, right now, you asked for feedback. You wanted to know, so now you're hearing it. Accept it, take it on. Okay, I appreciate the feedback. Just listen, write it down, take some notes, whatever you might need to do. But right now, your job is to listen. You ask for feedback, you're getting feedback. Don't get angry in the process. And even if it hurts at the time, which it will, because you're going to hear some things that you either won't have the current skills to be able to fix, and then that's going to push your goal further out, and you get frustrated that you can't have what you want now. Or you're going to have to accept, well, that actually is true, and it hurts, and I understand that. I don't know how I'm going to fix that. Which is good news, because at least, in my opinion, at least now you know. You know what needs to be worked on, or you know now you've got some objective data to work with. I'm never going to progress at this organization, in this career. And these are some really hard conversations, particularly if you've studied it for a period of time, particularly if there's the social pressures. You might have parents that really want you to do this. You may have told all your friends that this is what you're doing. There's a whole, you may have spent $50,000 on a degree to be able to do this, and then you're secretly wanting to do something else. Well, maybe it's a good chance to set you free. Now, again, I'm not projecting anything on, I'm not trying to project anything onto you. I'm just presenting options to be able to ultimately set you free if that's what you want. And you've heard it before, the truth will set you free. The exact same in this situation here. Okay, so now we have got objective feedback. We understand that there's only two things that our bosses care about: increased efficiency and reduced risk. You're paid to take away their worries, their anxiety, their problems. They want the box to be ticked. Whatever your job role is, right now, they want that box to be ticked. So it's one less thing for them to worry about so they can focus on what they do best. And I'm going to show you how to reframe that so they trip over you. But right now, this is the current reality. And we know the 3 layers of the advice game to ultimately put yourself in the way of that success. So right now, what we need to do is, or what you need to do, is you need to take charge. You need to decide right here, right now, that as of watching this, however long we've been going for now, is right now, there's 2 points in my life, my professional career. Before I heard this sentence, before I heard these 2 words, take charge, and after I heard the words take charge. Like, take charge. This is your career. This is, you tell me that this is what you want to do. Okay, well, let's start to demonstrate some of those behaviors. And if I'm being blunt, it's because I care. I know that you've got ambition inside you. I know that you want to achieve. Well, let's make sure that you're putting all that energy in the right spots rather than just impulsively just going out in multiple different directions. Let's use some of that internal energy, some of that internal ambition to be able to achieve. So we're taking charge. As of this point here, if you're not ready to take charge, click off this video. It's no longer going to serve you. But right now, we are going to take charge. Okay, we've made the decision. So the reality is, if you want to coast, if you want to keep getting the same results, then you'll just keep doing what you're doing. But you're here because you want new results. That means new behaviors. And so the person that you are right now, the individual that is sitting in front of the computer, watching this, listening to this, whatever you're doing, is not capable. You are not capable right now of becoming an associate. There are things missing, character traits, skill sets. There is individual elements that are part of your personality or skill set that it's not possible to become an associate advisor just yet, which is good as well, because we're going to use some of the self-reflection tools and some of the objective feedback that you heard earlier when you set up that meeting with your boss to be able to understand, okay, where do I need to go next and what do I need to work on to be able to take that charge. So what we're really talking about here is doing more than you asked for. Everyone is reaping the rewards of the labor or the seed that they've sowed. So what that means is, if you want to be promoted, some people falsely think that, okay, if promotion should come with time. I've been working in this career for a year. I'm not sure how long you've been CSOing for, whether it's 8 months, whether it's 18 months, whether it's 4 years, whatever it is. Don't confuse time in the role with skills for the role. The time in the role versus skills for the role. What this is about is, just because you've been there for 2 years' time and you've read somewhere, okay, you've been doing, if you've been CSOing for 2 years, it's time for a promotion. Well, objectively, I made that leap within 13, 14 months from CSO into an associate role. And so is that quick? Is that slow? Doesn't really matter. But it's somewhat quicker. I had not been in the industry prior to that. So maybe that's quick. But the reality is, the reason why it happened is because the skills that I was able to exhibit, the problems that I was able to solve. And so the only way you can solve new problems is by doing more than what you're being asked for. So if you look at, and what this is one little tactical and practical piece of advice that you can do. Look at what's currently on your job role. This is what you're currently being paid for, and the salary that's on there, that's what you're currently worth. That's what the business is willing to pay to have your labor into the marketplace. The second part of that is looking at an associate job description. And then you look at, and you're going to do, remember that game where you spot the differences? You're now going to spot the differences. The first thing you're going to spot is the difference between salaries. And so you can look at that and go, okay, well, an associate role gets paid $10, $15, whatever, $1,000 more as a guide. You're then going to look at all the bullet points and ask yourself, okay, well, if I want to step into that role, what are some of the things that I need to start to do? And I'm on the belief that it's better to seek forgiveness than ask for permission. So there's going to be certain things that you can do right now that, again, I'm not going to expose the business to risk, but they are going to increase the efficiencies. If you can do those things, that is doing more than what you're being asked to currently do. This is going to have your name pop up. So the next time when someone asks, okay, who's the next associate, your name's first on the list. So we're going to start to do more than we're being asked for. The second thing we're going to do is there's a difference here between mistakes and learning. What we're talking about here is a mistake is only a mistake if you make it twice. So no doubt there's been mistakes that you've made along your path so far. And you might think these things have adversely affected you and they're holding you back. Now, that may be true in some instances where it's been a big mistake. And most likely, if you're being held back because of that, it's not because of a skill mistake, although that can be costly. It's more than likely a trust breakage, and your bosses don't currently trust you. So we have to rebuild that, which is possible. It's fucking hard. If you have ever not trusted, so you think about someone that you don't trust right now for whatever reason. Has anyone really rebuilt that trust, or do you have anyone that you've had a relationship with where they've had to rebuild trust, or you've had to rebuild trust with them? Like, you know, if you cross that chasm, that it's tricky. It's a hard, arduous, long-term thing. But what we're talking about here is just say you make a mistake, and the first policy, my first and best policy, and I've done this, is as soon as you make a mistake, as soon as you realize you've made a mistake, the worst thing you can do is try and sweep it under the rug. The worst thing, because eventually it's going to come out, and then, like I was saying before about the trust thing, it's no longer a question of, oh man, like, didn't you know? You should know that by now. Like, it becomes a question of, well, what else are they hiding, and can I really trust this person, and how much risk are they exposing me to, or us to? So what we're talking about here is, again, reducing that risk, increasing the efficiencies. Is, okay, when we make a mistake, the first thing you should do is, okay, sucks, I hate it, it hurts, it takes a lot of courage, I have to come clean. I have to go to my bosses and explain two things. The first thing you're going to explain is exactly what's happened, all the data that you have currently right now. Here's what I did. I messed up. I know that. It shouldn't happen. Here's maybe why it happened. Here's what was going on. Not that it's not a huge factor, because look, at the end of the day, it's just a story. The second thing that you really want to have in that conversation is, here's what I've done next. Here's what I'm doing to help solve the problem. Because you don't want to go to your bosses with new problems. You want to go to your bosses with solutions that increase the efficiency or reduce the risk. If you go with the problem, you're increasing the risk. You're decreasing the efficiency, because now they're going to have to come and clean up your mess. So what you really want to start to think about is, okay, made a mistake, come clean, tell, be honest, give all the data, because there's nothing more than your bosses or advisor hates than surprises. So that's the reality of where you're at right now. The second part, the unforgotten part, is, okay, how do we transform the mistake into a learning? And then not only into a learning, I should actually have a third part of this here, is, how do I take the mistake from a lesson, or how do I take it from a mistake to a lesson to a teaching, so others don't make the same mistake, which is, surprise, surprise, guess what it's doing? It is reducing the risk or increasing efficiency. And you're probably sick of me saying that by now. But how do we take it from something that's happened, something that's cost money or time or effort or a relationship, and how do we turn that into a lesson? And this comes down to, what systems are you going to create off the back of that? What procedures are you going to create off the back of that? And what processes are you going to create off the back of that? Systems, processes, and procedures. And so if you can think about a new way to go about, or you made this mistake, right? Think of a mistake that you made. And then think, okay, why did this happen? Ask yourself, get curious, start questioning, why did this actually happen? Oh, I didn't have the skill set. Okay, well, maybe one idea is, you now, because you've made this mistake, you probably have learned a little bit more about the situation and how to make it happen again, is you create a training video, or you create an SOP, standard operating procedure, you create some sort of system to alleviate or to minimize, or hopefully abort and make sure it never happens again, the chances of this mistake happening again for other people other than you. Because if you've made it, if you truly consider yourself, if you think that you're not dumb, you're not stupid, you're watching this video, of course you're not stupid. But if you're watching this video and you know that you're not stupid and you don't maliciously and you don't have no intent of screwing things up on purpose and putting sugar in the fuel is like an old mechanic's trick. You can put sugar in someone's fuel tank and completely fuck them up. So I'm going to take it on face value that you're not that kind of person and that you do naturally and inherently want to improve and do better. Then you need to, if you've made the mistake, other people are going to make the same mistake. If there's no systems in place, now we're talking about, okay, how do I stop this from happening in the past? That's the question. How do I stop this from happening in the future, I should say? It's happened already. What systems, process, procedures, standard operating procedures, that's where the P comes from, can I put in place so someone else doesn't have to feel this pain, have to feel the embarrassment, have to feel the shame, have to feel the guilt of screwing up or losing the company money or whatever it is for you? How do I stop that from happening again? And by presenting this, not only are you reducing the risk, but you're also going to, it's favorable in the eyes of your bosses. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's favorable to put some of this stuff into place. The next thing that we want to do is we want to find a problem and solve it. So what I mean here is you probably complain about certain things that are happening inside of your organization. You probably bitch and moan in your team meetings or whatever it is. Probably go home at nighttime. Oh, so-and-so did this. I'm so sick of this. Now, I have a new philosophy that I've been following in life because I'm a recovering addict of this kind of behavior, and I'm working on it on a daily basis. What this is about is you ask yourself, you find a problem, and you ask yourself, can I solve this? If the answer is yes, then solve it. If the answer is, or the question is, should I solve this? Well, you can make your own judgment whether it's going to prove favorably. If it fits in your lane, then you can maybe answer it. If the answer is, no, I can't fix it, or no, I don't want to fix it, I've got a new philosophy. Shut the fuck up. It's very simple. If you want to fix it and you can fix it, then fix it. And if you don't, then shut the fuck up. It's so simple, but it's so forgotten about. And so this is the only sort of part, I'm not going to belabor the point here, but think about, okay, what's a problem that I currently see that I complain about every week, every day, whatever it is, that continually comes up for me that I want to smash my head against the concrete thinking about? What is a problem that exists? Now go and solve it. By solving it, by changing something, if you're doing something repeatedly, if you're finding the same thing happening again and again, if you're hearing in the office certain problems that continue to exist, ask yourself, can I solve that? Am I willing to solve that? And if you are, and if you want to solve it, that's going to take that may take 2 hours of additional work at nighttime or on the weekends to learn how to solve that problem. Well, then these are some of the things that you have to do. It's about, and I'm not massive on sacrifice and hustle and grind, but there is a period where you do have to decide how you're going to spend your time and the short-term sacrifices that you will have to make in order for longer-term gains. Now, you are watching this video because you want to be promoted. Well, this is one very big way to help put yourself in the way of success, is to find a problem that currently exists and solve it. And so if you're able to do that repeatedly, well, that's adding extreme value inside the organization. And so one of the things that I did, give you a practical example, is I'm very good with an iPad, and I've got a pen, and I'm able to create, my brain, the way it works is I'm able to break down problems and procedures and systems. I'm able to look at a system and study it and then understand, okay, how do I break it apart and how do I rebuild it? And perhaps, potentially, most of the time, one of my skills is I'm able to rebuild it in a more efficient way. And so what this is talking about here is I then went away and I created a digital, what do you call it? It's a video where I went on the whiteboard on my iPad and I drew at a high level how the entire business works, because I've studied businesses, I love the processes, I love the systems, hence creating this presentation for you. But I created a video So every new starter, when they first came on board, one of the first things on their first day, because when I first started, I found it was a little bit, thrown, especially not being in the industry before, coming in and then trying to understand how all the different pieces fit together was foreign, and I didn't understand it as much as I wanted to. I felt lost inside this big city, not geographically because I've lived in bigger cities, but I felt lost metaphorically in all the different elements, and I didn't know how they fit together. And so one of the value pieces that I added is I created a 25-minute video that explained very succinctly with sexy diagrams or sexy drawings, stick figures that is, of how the business actually works, how it operates, the flow of how the customer comes through from ideation, never hearing about the business before, into, okay, what happens after at the 12-month mark. So it's the entire life cycle of the business, or of a customer until it's on repeat. How does it actually work? Who are the people that are involved? What are all the elements that come into it? What's the technology stack that comes a part of it? Now, I delivered that presentation 3 times before I did my video, and I already had a good idea on sort of how it worked, but people really loved the presentation. So I systemized it. I put it onto my iPad. I saved it. I put it onto the joint drive. So we have a training system. So now, every time, there's 2 things happen. Every time that someone new starts, or a series of new starters start at our company, they'll either get me to present inside the entire group, positioning me as a leader, positioning me to my bosses as someone who can step up and deliver a presentation. Very important for you if you want to continue progressing. The more that you can speak, the bigger your career will go. But 2, we now have an asset inside the business that anyone inside the business can watch and understand at a high level how our particular business actually works from start to finish, how the different pieces fit in together. So it's a very logical way. This is an idea on what you can start to doing. I saw a problem, or I felt very lost on my first day, and I didn't understand, or in the first week even, how all these different pieces fit together. Now, I've even had people that have worked in the company for 6 months watch this. Oh, that's how that piece fits in. And so this is perennial value that's created inside the business. So start thinking about, what problem do you complain about all the time that you should probably stop complaining about and actually go out there and fix. Now, the next part is keeping a promise, which leads us to the next part, which is keep making a promise and keeping it. So you are only as good as your word. The hardest thing, hands down, the hardest thing to do is to say you're going to do something and then do it. I know it sounds very simplistic, or maybe overly simplistic, but there's so many elements that are stacked up but before that, to get to a point where this is what I'm going to do, and then going and doing it. It takes courage, it takes confidence, it takes capability. You've got to have the skill set to be able to do that. But what it does is it builds insane trust. The actual process of building trust stems from the whole idea of saying you're going to do something and then doing it. The more someone can make the link between the words that you've used, the communication that you've just exhibited, saying I'm going to do something, or communicating you're going to do something, and then making a promise, hey, I see this problem, I'm going to actually build something to change that. I'm going to build a process, a procedure, a system, a website, a whatever, to be able to fix that. And then you deliver on that promise, builds an insane level of trust. And so you really got to ask yourself, there's 2 different types of people. Do you want to be a talker or a deliverer? A talker or a deliverer? And I would say that whether you're a guy or a gal, and use this word, you want to be a delivery man. You want to be someone that can deliver on their word. You want to be known as someone within the organization. If your bosses, or if someone in leadership asks you to do something, then they know you're going to do it. You also want to be someone that you call it out and say, look, I see this problem, I'm going to fix it. And then you go out there and you fix it and you deliver and you keep your word. In this industry, your word, this whole industry is based on trust, or profession is based on trust. So the more that you can build up that trust, and I've studied trust, and I encourage you to look at all the elements that make up trust. It's a fascinating journey to go on to look into it. But what we're talking about here is building massive levels of trust by saying what we're going to do and then going out and doing it and keeping our promise. Which stems us into the next portion, which is, I know this is all great, this is all fun. all the things that you want to be in, and you see what the associate gets to do. You want to work on strategy, and you want to make one of the greatest parts of getting to be an associate is actually working on the strategy and the practical elements of building. And I know it can get boring sometimes working in a CSO role. And I actually sat down with my boss and one time I said, like, you know what, like, it seems like you just want me to get better at this role. Like, you want me to get really good at completing this role. And I remember being bored. I remember thinking, I'm great. I'm not learning anything. I'm getting great at completing this role. Like, it's not really serving me. And it was the best moment, the most painful moment at the time, but seriously, hands down, one of the best moments, is because in that moment, I realized I wasn't even doing the job that was right in front of my face. I was so ambitious to jump to the next thing. I was so thinking only in my mind that I was ready for the next step. When looking back now, there was gaps, there was blatant gaps, and this is how this presentation has all been built about, is because I had gaps inside of my skill set, inside of my behaviors. I had so many elements that needed work on, that it was the biggest blessing in disguise. But the biggest one was I wasn't even proficiently doing the job that was in front of me. And it sparked, it lit a fire within me to hear the feedback. Where's my slide here? My slide is must ask for direct and objective feedback. Well, I did that, and I got it straight between the eyes, a punch in the face. And it was the best thing that's probably, career-wise, one of the best things that has ever happened to me. And the reason why I say that is because it forced me to pull out the mirror and ask myself some really hard questions. I thought I was ready to go to the next step. I wasn't. I thought that I was ready to take on more responsibility. I wasn't. I thought all these different things, all these fantasies that I had in my mind, but the reality was, externally, that was not how I was perceived. Those were not the things that I was not ready for that next step, because I couldn't even. Why would someone give me more responsibility? Why would someone give you more responsibility? Is the question turned around? If I or you cannot even handle the responsibility that you're currently given at the moment. Your bosses right now have entrusted you, the job role that they've given you, they're entrusting you. Please just take care of this. Take these stress. But if you do this, it takes stress away from me. Please do this, and then I don't have to worry about it. On the opposite side of that is, if you're not doing that, then you're creating stress. Now, remember, the same point I've been belaboring the whole time: increased efficiency is reduced risk, or reducing risk. If you're not doing your job and no one else is taking care of it for you, then you're increasing the risk and you're reducing the efficiencies. You're breaking the two eternal sins. What we're finally thinking about here is doing the job in front of you so fucking well that you become undeniable. And I know it sounds like a double-edged sword, because you think, if I get so good at the role, they won't consider me for the next role. Now, that is untrue. In my experience, that is untrue for the following reasons: because there's skill set and there's character traits. If you want to progress up, that means that you're going to lead a new life, you're going to lead a new position, you're going to lead new responsibilities. And leadership is about character traits. It's about the behaviors that you exhibit, not just the skill set. Skill set's one thing, but can you show that you can learn new skills? Can you show that you're adaptable? Can you show that you can work under pressure? Can you show that you can deliver on your promise? Can you show that you have a growth mindset, that when challenges are thrown at you, you don't just flounder, you actually step up? Think about that. There's 5 or 6 different things that I just rattled off. If your bosses knew that you were the kind of person that would tick all those boxes, and new responsibilities came up, do you think that and you had 2 different people, one who they knew if they threw in the deep end, they would rise, and they had another person who they knew when they threw in the deep end, they just get overwhelmed? If there was 2 people, the same 2 people, and there was one who constantly delivered on their word, they said something, then they went out there and did it. Another person said they're going to do these great things, but it kind of just fizzled out. Who do you think is going to be in the best line for the promotion? So what we're talking about here is getting really good at the job you're currently doing, displaying those character traits, which are delivering your word, all the stuff I just said, because that's going to put you in the front line of success. The last one here, the last slide that I want to present to you here in this training session is, everyone has their advantage. Everyone has something that makes them unique as a part of them. And this really stood out to me when I really sort of had two personas inside of my professional life, and I sort of kept them separate. And so I'm someone who loves reflecting, loves asking questions, loves to look at leadership. I love personal development. I love striving, growing, looking, finding answers, and uncovering secrets, all that kind of stuff, sharing information. I love to do that. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to park that because what my work needs is someone professional and they need someone who's purely just focused on just doing their job. It wasn't until I merged the two me's into one and started showing up that I started to take charge. I started to awaken an inner leader. I took charge of an entire team. I hadn't led a team of people that size, especially not effectively. I hadn't led a team of that size ever before. And I said, look, I see the team here, and it's more so like four individuals that are just sort of progressing inside of their life, inside of the role, but sort of just doing their jobs. But it's not a coherent team that's heading towards one direction. There's no focus, and it's just individuals, and we're not performing as good as what I think we could do. And this comes back to my point here about making a promise and keeping it. I said, I will run the meetings from now on. I said that I will take charge, I will take responsibility for reducing the risk and increasing the efficiencies. I'm going to be the guy. And what I started to do is I started to bring my whole self into the workplace. I started to use some of the questioning techniques that I've learned over my years. I started to use some of the reflection tools. I started to share different podcasts. I created a channel called Growth Mindset where I post different resources and things that could help. I started running training sessions. I helped everyone get on the same page. And I'm not painting a picture of I'm giving examples of what I actually did. This is real life things. And so what it really helped me do is it helped the entire team get on the same page. It helped the entire team realize their own values, see where they fit into the place, and it helped them reflect on their own journeys, reflect on their own knowledge and experiences, and how we can build that in. And I started to leverage off everyone else's expertise, all by just helping focus the team and get them one acknowledging themselves and loving themselves, if you want to use that word, but really accepting themselves and seeing themselves as their full selves inside the work environment, being heard, feeling connected to the group. And then we marched on, we marched forwards towards a common goal. And so it was articulating what that goal was. My role then became, okay, well, I made this promise. I'm going to help bring the best out of this team. What do I need to do? I want to step into this leadership position. There's no way that I'm moving up to the next role without having, one, completed a comprehensive review of what I'm currently doing, fixing any gaps, working on my character traits, getting really honest with myself. I just made the realization that I am not moving up unless I do some of these things. And so what that really did was prompted me to start to bring my whole self to work. And I realized I've got so many advantages from my past life, my past experiences, all my skill sets that I can now infiltrate and use. And I can tell you, things went gangbusters. Other people on the team, well, what's this private development session that you're running? What's this skills? What's this goals training? Like, how can we become part of that? And so what you could do is that's mine. That's the thing that I am good at. I'm good at speaking. I'm good at asking questions. I'm good at reflecting. I'm good at leading by example. You might be a great debater. You might be really great at presenting evidence. You might be really great at graphic design and making beautiful slides. You need to find your special sauce, the thing that makes you unique, the thing that you can, that only that your friends say that you're really great at, that your parents always noticed you doing when, or not always, but often would say, oh yeah, when you were a kid, you were often doing that. Or more recently, a love that you've found or something that sparks you up, that lights you up. The biggest advice, the last piece of advice I have here is don't keep these two personas separate. Bring them together. Bring your whole self to work and look upon yourself and take self-reflection. And I don't have my journal here with me, but I'm massive. I've got about 30 fresh ones that are waiting there because I go through them probably about one a month when I'm hard reflecting, and then probably like one every 2 to 3 months when I'm just sort of not as going through as a reflective season. Sometimes we are really like need to get onto it, but other times it's more just like a planning tool. But what it is about is it takes hard work, and it's probably going to take. This isn't an overnight thing, but I guarantee you, within 90 days, if you watch this maybe a couple of times, or go back over this and watch this again, and start to implement, tomorrow from day one. Make it a 90-day challenge or 100 days of leadership or 100 days of self-improvement. Go back over this and start to look into more material, maybe see some of my other videos or maybe look at some books or whatever it is. I start asking yourself some questions, detailing your journey, documenting your journey. I guarantee you, there is no way that you could do these behaviors and exhibit these skills and not be in the way of success. It's literally, you could not convince me otherwise that if you just did these things in this list, do you know why? Because I've done them. I've done them and I've gotten the results. And so, and these aren't step by step, follow my system. These are strategies that you can implement, that I've implemented, that are relatable to where you want to go. And now, and the reason why I'm freely giving this out is because it takes work. It takes, this isn't the work. Don't confuse thinking about or watching me do the thinking for you. This isn't the work. The work is the hard self-reflection about where you're screwing up or where you could do better or mistakes that you've made in the past, and the self-reflection, the punches in your own face that you have to give yourself to be able to proceed forth, to be able to become the new you. And I don't want to, I don't think I'd title this unless I've changed the title later on. I didn't want to make this become a better you, but the reality is, if you do these things, you're going to become not a better you, a different you. In fact, I would label it, you're going to become more you. This is all about becoming more of the person you already are. All I'm doing is just helping draw out who already exists within. So I hope that's been helpful, and maybe go back and watch this a couple of times. If you need anything else along the way, feel free to reach out, and I'll speak to you again soon.